title is How Local Businesses Can React and Respond to the Oil Spill for Your Benefit. And I want to start out by perhaps explain that I'm not the person that touched that information. The information about that does lie with our Small Business Administration and some of the websites that we've offered you. It's public information that we specialize in at this point in time, sharing the resources and knowledge that we have with you, and sharing the state of Florida's resources with each of you. Because each of you will result and find very individual situations as you encounter business losses, or your own personal losses, or losses from your employees, your friends and neighbors. And because those are so personalized, I think it's best that you always refer to the website resources that we're going to be talking to you about today. I would like to talk a little bit about Manatee County's response, as Lori had said, focus on our public outreach, a little bit about how you can help us out there monitor the situation, and then what to avoid, some of the things we do. We did respond, as Lori mentioned, to the area contingency plans established by the U.S. Coast Guard. And in our water sampling plan and also in our public outreach, I'll talk about that in just a moment. The area contingency plans were designed, actually developed under the 1990 Oil Spill Recovery Act by the federal government. And in July of 1993, Tampa Bay perfected what was a boom deployment plan to protect sensitive bodies of water around the Tampa Bay area. And little did we know, 1 month later, a dramatic oil spill and accident in Tampa Bay oiled the shores of Pinellas County with an accident that occurred offshore. And that area contingency plan was tested and actually did work very well for all of us. The updates in 2010 came at the request and response to the Deepwater Horizon oil spill. And it was an effort to verify local areas of environmental significance that could be protected by floating booms. And I just wanted to make a point here that booms such as these are obviously floating. And if oil becomes weathered, dispersed through a water column, or travels along the bottom, booms are completely ineffective. If you've ever tried to take a kayak through Longbow Pass at a change of tides, you can also understand how a boom would be completely ineffective in such a high tidal energy area, and along the waves too. But nonetheless, we have found that in Manatee County, we do have areas where boom deployment stretching across Perico Bay, stretching across Terracea Bay, Bishop Harbor, are effective deterrents to keep the floating oil off of our mangrove coasts and weedy shorelines, where cleanups become much more difficult. Actually, some people ask me, well, how come there are no booms deployed on Anna Maria Island in some of these different scenarios? Because the entire county is covered, as is the coast of Florida. And you'll understand it's much easier to clean oil that comes ashore on a sandy beach with a grader or a bucket truck or other pieces of equipment, shovels, than it is to reach into the roots of a mangrove coastline community. And so some of our deployments are actually designed to redirect the oil to our sandy shores where cleanup can be more immediate. We're also establishing a water sampling plan, and this is a preventative measure as much as it is a series of documents and documentation to think about what measures we'll have to take to demonstrate an impact. You'll have to talk about presence and absence of oil in our community, presence and absence of oil in the shoreline, or presence and absence of oil in marine organisms. And the only way to prove that, in effect, that you've had a claim or a cause, you have to be able to tell what you had before the spill. So you can imagine a sampling plan that we're undertaking both in the water, in the sediments, in some of our shellfish, and this is being done both by the Mote Marine Laboratory, the Florida Environmental Protection, and our own department in sampling areas around Manatee County. Our focus on public outreach, as Lori mentioned, is pretty broad relative to trying to bring together to you, at one point in the county website, the kinds of links that can bring you information on how to respond as individuals, how to respond as businesses, and in fact, as a community. I tried to pull a page off of what such a website will look like if you go to our Manatee County website. And again, I apologize, it's not intended to read this, there's no test thereafter. But you'll find you'll find if you pull up the Manatee County government website and dial into the oil spill report, you'll start to see pages like this. We also have handouts that can be printed directly off the web to give you, in the unlikely event spill reaches Manatee County, what actions you should take. And also, again, a full litany of websites to the various regional, state, and federal agencies. Deepwater Horizon Response official website, as we were talking about earlier, they could have chosen a smaller font, and when you print it out, it gets even smaller for all of us who need a little bit of help with reading classes. But here is a very complete and directory of resources you can find. Again, frequently asked questions. It's about 19 to 20 of those on the page, and directing you to a whole litany of resources to answer those questions. And this is one page I highly recommend that you always refer to. We passed, as our handout in black and white. This is for you to take home with you. Okay, about how you can help. Each day, our office gets calls, as I'm sure most gets calls. Many of the organizations are seeking, how can I help as an individual? I want to be able to do something. And of course, Volunteer Florida has a very mechanized way in which you can apply for and participate in as a volunteer. But while all this is going around in the Panhandle and the Louisiana coast, there's also a real need here locally to help. And our own Wildlife Inc. on Braden Beach. This is Ed and Gale Strait. As a business, they are also registered with BP Oil as one of their official agents here locally, with training and the resources to respond to oil, birds, and wildlife. And so, as we think about how we can help, calls to organizations like this, calls to Mulberry Laboratory, are always welcome at any time. It's almost like Christmas 365 days of the year. So stay vigilant as you look for impacts on our beaches. And don't ever be afraid or embarrassed to call in what you believe to be an occurrence. Some phone numbers to reach also. I'm also glad I noted that in referring to the probes that were sent out into the Gulf, the probe there from Rutgers that somehow got lost in the loop current, you referred to him as a he. And of course, we all know guys never ask for directions. Lost out there. I think that the DNA testing to truly link and identify the sources of oil are going to be very valuable to us in the coming years. This is one such area I saw just yesterday on the web, down there in Fort Myers. What would you think if you went to Fort Myers Beach on May 29th and saw that in the water? Well, actually, those aren't tar balls at all. Those are tunicates, a cluster of living organisms, sea squirts, and other things that we occasionally encounter ourselves here on our own beaches. They come in all colors. Today, apparently, they were dark. And everybody called those in as oil blobs, oil spills. So, not always are you going to find, you're going to find a lot of mimicking in the natural environment, what you might declare as oil. Also, algae blooms will also appear and take on the appearance of an oil slick. This happened yesterday on Anamina Island. Now, Commissioner Whitmore will remember approximately 3 years ago, at about 1 a.m., when she was still mayor, there was a drastic call to come out for a huge, what appeared to be a chemical spill in the Gulf of Mexico. And at 1 a.m., with mere flashlights, all we could tell was it was dark, it was brown, slimy. I even touched it, it stung, and we panicked. We thought there must be a disaster offshore Tampa Bay in the middle of the night. But it turned out to be, later in the morning, testing algae. But it sure looks like something threatening to me. And so this was called in to our state hotline yesterday. We went through the procedure and verified as algae. Right here in our own shores, however, you can see how someone could say, my goodness, oil has finally come. But it hasn't at all.